The summer of 2025 marks a somber milestone over 3 relentless years of brutal warfare in Eastern Europe. What began as a sudden invasion has evolved into a grinding, all-consuming conflict that has reshaped the region and reverberated across the globe. The world watches, weary yet transfixed, as the war continues to dominate headlines and upend lives. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which once shocked the world with its speed and ferocity, now drags on with no clear end in sight. Each day brings new reports of clashes, advances, and setbacks as both sides dig in for a conflict that has become a test of endurance as much as firepower. The front lines stretch for hundreds of miles, a scar across the landscape marked by labyrinthine trenches, relentless artillery duels, and the constant hum of drones overhead. Technology and tradition collide on the battlefield, as soldiers hunker down in muddy trenches while unmanned aircraft prowl the skies, searching for targets. Behind the lines, the toll is staggering. Once vibrant cities have been reduced to skeletal ruins, their streets choked with debris and memories of lives interrupted. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, seeking safety in distant lands or crowded refugee camps, their futures uncertain. As of August 18, 2025, the map of Ukraine tells a grim story. Nearly a fifth of the country remains under Russian occupation, including the strategic peninsula of Crimea and vast swaths of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. These regions, once bustling with life, now exist under the shadow of foreign control and ongoing conflict. Despite the unwavering courage of Ukrainian defenders and a steady flow of Western military aid, the war has settled into a violent stalemate. Neither side is able to claim decisive victory, and the cost in human lives and shattered communities continues to mount with each passing month. Now, into this deadlock, Russian President Vladimir Putin has stepped forward with a dramatic new proposal for peace. His announcement has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles and captured the attention of world leaders, analysts, and ordinary citizens alike. Is this a turning point or merely another maneuver in a long and bitter struggle? As diplomats gather and experts debate, the world is left to wonder, is Putin's proposal a genuine off-ramp from conflict, a chance to end the bloodshed and begin rebuilding? Or is it, as some fear, a demand for Ukrainian surrender disguised as diplomacy, a move designed to cement territorial gains and divide the international community? The stakes could not be higher. The decisions made in the coming weeks will not only determine the fate of Ukraine, but will also shape the security and stability of Europe for generations to come. As a new chapter begins to unfold, the world holds its breath, hoping for peace but bracing for what comes next. Putin's so-called peace plan, presented with great fanfare at the Kremlin, is less a genuine offer for negotiation and more a list of harsh ultimatums. Rather than opening the door to dialogue, it slams it shut, dictating terms that leave little room for compromise or mutual understanding. Under this proposal, Ukraine is required to cede all territories that Russia claims as its own, regardless of whether Russian forces actually control them on the ground. This includes vast regions in the east and south, some of which remain fiercely contested. In addition, Ukrainian forces would be forced to withdraw entirely, effectively abandoning millions of citizens to Russian rule. Putin's demands go even further. He insists that Ukraine must formally renounce any ambitions to join NATO, adopt a stance of permanent neutrality, and drastically reduce the size and capability of its military. These conditions would leave Ukraine vulnerable, unable to defend itself from future aggression, and isolated from its Western allies. As if that weren't enough, Putin calls for a change of government in Kiev, seeking to install leaders more amenable to Moscow's interests and less responsive to the will of the Ukrainian people. He also demands the immediate lifting of all Western sanctions, which have been imposed in response to Russia's invasion and ongoing occupation. This would allow Russia to recover economically without making any real concessions or addressing the root causes of the conflict. These terms, taken together, amount to nothing less than total capitulation. Ukraine would be left defenseless, its sovereignty shattered, its people at the mercy of an occupying power. The cost of peace, as defined by Putin, is the loss of freedom and national identity. By demanding territory he doesn't even fully control, Putin exposes the true nature of his plan. This is not about security or stability, it is about territorial expansion, about redrawing borders by force, and about asserting dominance over a neighboring nation. The so-called peace plan is crafted to be rejected. It allows Moscow to claim, both to its own citizens and the world, that it sought peace in good faith, while placing the blame for continued war squarely on Kiev's shoulders. It's a calculated move in the information war, designed to justify further aggression. In reality, this is not a blueprint for peace, but a roadmap for domination and subjugation. It offers no security, no justice, and no hope for a free Ukraine. Ukraine now faces a stark and painful choice: surrender its sovereignty and accept a future under foreign control, or continue the fight for independence, dignity, and the right to determine its own destiny. Kiev's response was immediate and resolute. Putin's demands are an ultimatum, not a peace offer. President Zelensky and his government refuse to cede territory or abandon their people to occupation. Ukraine's position is clear: peace requires full Russian withdrawal and restoration of its borders, including Crimea. Polls show over 90% of Ukrainians reject any territorial concessions, hardened by years of war and occupation. The Ukrainian armed forces, despite immense pressure, continue to defend every inch of their land. To accept Putin's terms would betray those who have fought and died. For Ukraine, this is a fight for survival, freedom, and their European future. Their message: there will be no compromise on sovereignty. U.S. support has been pivotal for Ukraine, but its future is uncertain amid deep political divisions. The Biden administration has led the coalition arming Ukraine and sanctioning Russia, but American politics are shifting. Donald Trump's rhetoric suggests a possible retreat from robust support, raising fears of forced concessions. Allies and adversaries watch Washington closely, knowing U.S. resolve shapes the war's trajectory. Any wavering could embolden Moscow and threaten Western unity. Europe is ramping up its own defenses but can't match U.S. aid alone. The debate in America is about its role in the world, and the outcome will influence Ukraine's fate. The shifting sands of U.S. politics are as crucial as the front lines. Russia's invasion shattered Europe's illusion of lasting peace, forcing a dramatic reassessment of security. Germany, France, the UK, and others have ramped up defense spending and military aid, while frontline states like Poland and the Baltics lead support efforts. Millions of Ukrainian refugees have found shelter across Europe, and advanced Western weapons have changed the battlefield. Yet economic strain and political divisions test European unity, with leaders like Hungary's Orban obstructing aid. Despite these challenges, Europe is more united and determined, with Finland and Sweden joining NATO. The continent is rebuilding its defense and moving toward greater strategic autonomy. Putin's aggression has ironically forged a stronger Europe. The war has reawakened the continent to the realities of security and solidarity. For Ukraine, this war is about survival as a sovereign, democratic nation, not just land. Accepting Putin's terms would erase Ukraine's independence and its European aspirations. The regions at stake are vital, home to millions, key industries, and critical infrastructure like the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Losing them would cripple Ukraine's economy and future. For the West, the conflict tests the post-World War II order. Can borders be changed by force? If Russia succeeds, it sets a dangerous precedent for other authoritarian regimes. Supporting Ukraine is a strategic investment in global security and the principles that have kept the peace. The stakes extend far beyond Ukraine's borders. Behind the headlines lies immense human suffering. Tens of thousands of civilians are dead, cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut destroyed, and millions displaced. Over 6 million Ukrainians are refugees, with millions more internally displaced. Russia's forced deportation of Ukrainian children is a chilling violation of human rights. The psychological scars and family separations will last generations. On the battlefield, both sides have suffered staggering casualties, with hundreds of thousands killed or wounded. For Ukrainians, the fight is for home and survival, but the cost is devastating. The war's most undeniable reality is its human toll. While fighting rages, diplomacy continues on a global stage. Ukraine rallies international support, hosting a major peace summit with over 90 nations, though Russia was excluded. The summit showcased Ukraine's diplomatic reach and isolated Moscow, building consensus around principles like sovereignty and nuclear safety. Kiev hopes to present a united global front to pressure Russia into real negotiations. Meanwhile, Russia courts the global south, blaming the West and pushing for a multipolar world. Western sanctions target Russia's economy, but Moscow adapts, betting on Western resolve fading. The diplomatic contest is a test of endurance. Can Ukraine and its allies maintain unity long enough to force change? The outcome will shape the future of peace in Europe. Is Putin's proposal truly a step toward ending the war, or is it simply a calculated move to further his ambitions? As the world listens to his words, many wonder if this is a sincere attempt at negotiation, or just another maneuver in a long campaign for dominance. The stakes could not be higher, and the intentions behind these proposals deserve careful scrutiny. Demanding that Ukraine surrender a quarter of its sovereign territory is not a gesture of peace. It is in essence, an act of conquest. Such demands ignore the rights and aspirations of millions of Ukrainians living in these regions and set a dangerous precedent for international relations. If borders can be redrawn by force, what does that mean for the future of global stability? True peace is not achieved through ultimatums or forced capitulation. It requires the complete withdrawal of Russian forces from occupied lands, accountability for the devastation and suffering inflicted, and robust, enforceable security guarantees for Ukraine's future. Only then can trust begin to be rebuilt, and only then can the wounds of war start to heal. Yet, Putin's plan offers none of these essential elements. Instead, it seeks to leave Ukraine fractured, weakened, and perpetually vulnerable to future aggression. The scars of war are visible in every destroyed home and every displaced family, and any so-called peace that ignores their suffering is no peace at all. Accepting these terms would not only reward aggression, but also undermine the very foundations of international law. It would send a message to the world that might makes right, and that the sovereignty of nations can be bargained away under threat of violence. The world is watching closely. Will the principles of sovereignty and self-determination be upheld? Or will the international community allow brute force to dictate the fate of nations? The outcome of this conflict will echo far beyond Ukraine's borders, shaping the rules of the global order for years to come. Ukraine's struggle is more than a regional conflict. It is a defining moment for the 21st century. The courage and resilience of its people have inspired millions, reminding us all of the enduring value of freedom and the high cost of defending it. Genuine peace will not come from ultimatums issued in Moscow, but from the steadfast determination of the Ukrainian people and the unwavering support of the international community. Humanitarian aid, diplomatic backing, and military assistance are all vital in ensuring that Ukraine can stand strong against aggression. The future of Ukraine, and indeed, the future of the international order, hangs in the balance. It will be shaped by the outcome of battles on the ground, heated debates in parliaments and summits, and the unity of Western allies in the face of adversity. The world must now decide what price is too high to defend freedom and what kind of future do we wish to build. The choices made today will define generations to come.